Have you ever walked into a workplace and just felt the tension in the room before anyone said a word? Or joined a team where everything just clicked? That's not luck. That's organizational behavior and dynamics at work. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what drives human behavior inside organizations, why people act the way they do at work, how teams form and function, and how leaders can actually shape culture instead of just reacting to it. Whether you're a manager, a student, an aspiring leader, or just someone trying to make sense of your workplace, this is for you. Let's get into it. Let's start with a definition. Organizational behavior, or OB, is the study of how individuals and groups act within organizations and how that behavior impacts performance. It's not just psychology, it's not just management theory. It's a blend, psychology, sociology, anthropology, all coming together to explain one central question. Why do people behave the way they do at work? OB operates on 3 levels. 1. Individual, personality, motivation, perception, decision-making. Group, teams, communication, conflict, leadership. Organizational, culture, structure, change. Here's the key insight. These levels are not separate. They interact constantly. One disengaged employee can quietly drain a team's energy. One toxic team can slowly poison a company's culture. It's all connected. Let's zoom into the individual level first. Why here? Because everything in an organization, its culture, its productivity, its very success, starts with the unique individuals who show up every day. Each person brings a distinct combination of skills, personality, values, and personal history. Understanding this intricate human element isn't just a soft skill, it's the fundamental building block of effective leadership and a thriving workplace. It's about seeing the person behind the role. Motivation theory. So, what actually drives people to perform? This is the central question of motivation theory. At its core, motivation is the why behind our actions. It's the force that initiates, guides, and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. We can broadly categorize it into 2 types. Extrinsic motivation comes from the outside. Think salary, bonuses, or the fear of being disciplined. It's a transaction. Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, comes from within. It's the satisfaction you get from mastering a new skill, the pride in doing meaningful work, or the joy of creative problem solving. Great leaders learn how to foster both, but they know that intrinsic motivation is where true, sustainable engagement lies. One of the most famous frameworks here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Imagine a pyramid. At the bottom are our basic physiological and safety needs. In a work context, this means a fair salary to live on and a sense of job security. Once those are met, we look for belonging, feeling part of a team. Then comes esteem, being recognized for our contributions. And at the very top, self-actualization, the drive to grow, be creative, and fulfill our potential. People aren't motivated by paychecks alone. They're motivated by security, belonging, recognition, and ultimately, self-actualization. A common pitfall for managers is assuming everyone is on the same level. Offering a growth opportunity to someone worried about layoffs will fall on deaf ears. You have to meet people where they are on the pyramid. Then there's Hertzberg's 2-factor theory, which makes an important distinction. He separated job factors into 2 categories. First, hygiene factors. These are things like salary, company policies, and safe working conditions. Their absence causes dissatisfaction, but their presence doesn't actually motivate. They just prevent unhappiness. Think of it like this. A functioning office bathroom doesn't make you love your job, but a broken one will definitely make you hate it. Real motivation comes from the second category, motivators. These are the intrinsic elements, challenging work, recognition, responsibility, and opportunities for growth. These are the factors that create deep job satisfaction and encourage people to go the extra mile. Now let's shift from what drives people to how they interpret the world around them. This brings us to perception. Here's something most people overlook. 2 employees can experience the exact same event. say, a critical piece of feedback, and walk away with completely different interpretations. One sees it as valuable coaching, a sign that their manager is invested in their growth. The other sees it as a personal attack, a sign they aren't valued. The event was identical, but the perception was worlds apart. That's perception in action. It's the mental filter through which we process information, and it's shaped by our past experiences, our personality, our cultural background, and even our mood in the moment. A major perception bias in the workplace is the halo effect, where we let one positive trait, like someone being charismatic, positively color our opinion of everything else they do, blinding us to potential flaws. The opposite, the horn effect, is just as dangerous. Leaders who understand this stop assuming their message was received the way it was intended. They move from broadcasting to dialogue. They start checking in, asking clarifying questions like, "How did that land with you?" Or, "What's your key takeaway from our conversation?" The takeaway here: you cannot manage people effectively if you only manage tasks. You have to understand what's driving the person behind the task. You have to appreciate that their perception is their reality. By grasping the fundamentals of individual motivation and perception, you move from being a manager who directs to a leader who inspires and empowers. Now let's zoom out from the individual to the group level. While individual motivation is the engine, the team is the vehicle that drives organizational success. Very little meaningful work happens in total isolation. It happens in teams, where diverse skills, perspectives, and personalities must merge to create something greater than the sum of its parts. This is where the science of organizational behavior becomes incredibly practical, because managing the dynamics of a group is a completely different challenge than managing a single person. It's about orchestrating a collective, not just directing individuals. So how does a collection of individuals become a high-performing team? It's a journey, not an instant transformation. In the 1960s, psychologist Bruce Tuckman developed a model that remains one of the most useful frameworks for understanding this process. He identified 4 key stages that virtually every team goes through. It begins with forming. In this initial stage, everyone's on their best behavior. They're polite, a little cautious, and focused on understanding the scope of the work and their own roles. There's a high degree of dependence on the leader for guidance and direction. The main goal here is orientation. People are busy figuring each other out and trying to understand what is expected of them. Next comes storming. Once the initial politeness wears off, reality sets in. This is where conflict emerges as different personalities and work styles clash. People start to push back, compete for roles, or disagree on the team's direction and methods. It can feel chaotic and uncomfortable, and some teams get stuck here, paralyzed by infighting. If a team successfully navigates the storm, it enters norming. Here, members begin to resolve their differences and appreciate each other's strengths. The team finds its rhythm, establishes formal and informal norms, and builds trust. There's a sense of cohesion and unity, and members are more willing to share responsibility and provide constructive feedback. Finally, the team reaches performing. At this stage, the team is operating at peak efficiency with minimal friction. The structure is clear and accepted. The focus is on achieving the group's goals, and members are highly motivated and knowledgeable. They can handle decision-making and problem-solving on their own, with the leader acting more as a facilitator and coach. Now here's what's critically important for any leader to understand. Storming is not a failure. It's a necessary and productive phase. Teams that try to skip conflict entirely, enforcing a culture of artificial harmony, often produce shallow, groupthink-driven decisions because no one is willing to challenge the status quo. Healthy friction, when managed well, actually makes teams stronger, more resilient, and more innovative. The fuel for navigating these stages is communication. How information flows through a team determines almost everything. Trust, speed, morale, and the ability to resolve conflict. Think about the channels. There's downward communication, from leadership to the team. There's upward communication, where feedback and status reports flow back to leadership. And there's lateral communication, between peers. Healthy teams have strong, open channels in all three directions. Organizations that default to transparency generally outperform those that rely on rumor, hierarchy gatekeeping, or need-to-know secrecy. Let's look at our case study, Technova. During their reorganization, they created a new cross-functional Phoenix team to lead a critical product launch. The team was composed of star players from engineering, marketing, and design. In the forming stage, they were excited, but they quickly hit storming. The engineer prioritized technical stability, the marketer prioritized speed to market, and the designer prioritized user experience. They weren't disagreeing to be difficult. Their professional training gave them conflicting, yet valid priorities. Communication broke down. They used private email chains to complain, creating information silos. This is a classic example of a team getting stuck in the storm because of poor communication and unresolved role conflict. This brings us to a crucial distinction. Not all conflict is bad. In fact, some of it is essential. Organizational psychologists separate conflict into two types. First, there's task-related conflict. This is disagreement over the work itself, over ideas, approaches, and strategies. When managed constructively, this type of conflict is highly beneficial. It forces the team to examine assumptions, consider more alternatives, and ultimately improves decision quality. Then there's relationship conflict. This is the destructive kind. It's personal friction, ego battles, and interpersonal animosity. It's based on who you are, not what you think. This type of conflict erodes trust, hinders communication, and is almost always destructive to team performance. The goal isn't to eliminate conflict. It's to encourage task conflict while minimizing relationship conflict. So if you're leading a team right now, especially one that feels tense, ask yourself this critical question. Is the friction in my team about the ideas, or is it about the people? Is the debate over the what and the how, or is it about who is right? That distinction changes everything about how you should intervene. Fostering debate about ideas is coaching. Mediating personal disputes is damage control. Knowing the difference is the art of leadership. Let's pause and recap. So far we've covered organizational behavior operates on three levels: individual, group, and organizational. Motivation isn't one size fits all, and perception shapes how people experience the workplace. Teams move through predictable stages, and conflict, when it's about ideas, not people, can actually be healthy. Now let's zoom out even further, to the organization as a whole. Now let's zoom out from the individual and the group to the widest lens, the organization itself. Here, three invisible but powerful forces are constantly at play: culture, power, and structure. Understanding them is like having the architectural blueprints to the entire building. First, let's talk about culture. It's often described with the simple phrase, the way we do things around here. But this simplicity is deceptive. Culture is the organization's collective personality, the intricate web of shared values, beliefs, and assumptions that guide behavior when no one's watching. You can have a beautifully written mission statement about innovation and collaboration framed on the wall, but if the real culture rewards individual competition and punishes failed experiments, you'll see a completely different reality happening in the hallways and meeting rooms. Culture isn't what's printed in the employee handbook. It's what actually gets rewarded, tolerated, and modeled by leadership day in and day out. It's the stories that are told about past successes and failures, the heroes who are celebrated, and the rituals that define daily life, from the all-hands meetings to the Friday afternoon social. The second force is power. In any organization, there's a critical difference between formal power, the authority that comes with a title on an org chart, and informal influence. Formal power gives a manager the right to assign tasks, approve budgets, and make hiring decisions. It's visible and officially sanctioned. But informal influence is earned, not given. It's the respect and trust someone commands through their expertise, their relationships, or their sheer charisma. Think of the veteran engineer who everyone consults before starting a new project, even though she has no direct reports, or the administrative assistant who has been with the company for 20 years and knows exactly who to call to get anything done quickly. These are the informal influencers. Some of the most influential people in an organization have no formal authority at all, yet they can make or break a new initiative. Ineffective leaders often try to bypass or ignore them, seeing them as a threat to the formal hierarchy. But smart leaders learn to identify and work these informal influencers, not around them. They understand that true organizational momentum is built by harnessing both formal authority and informal social capital. The third force is structure, the formal skeleton of the organization. This organizational structure, whether it's a traditional hierarchy, a flat startup model, a complex matrix, or a fluid network design, dictates how information flows, how decisions get made, and who reports to whom. Each structure comes with its own set of trade-offs. A rigid, top-heavy hierarchical structure, common in large established corporations, might create absolute clarity on roles and responsibilities. The chain of command is clear, but this clarity often comes at the cost of speed and agility. Information has to travel up and down multiple layers, which can stifle innovation and slow response times to market changes. Conversely, a flatter structure, popular with tech startups, might enable rapid communication and fast decision-making. Ideas can flow freely, and teams can pivot quickly. But this speed can create ambiguity about who is ultimately accountable for what, leading to confusion or duplicated effort as the company grows. A matrix structure, where an employee might report to both a functional manager and a project manager, aims for the best of both worlds but can result in conflicting priorities and power struggles. So, which one is best? There's no universally correct structure, and this is where the crucial concept of contingency theory comes in. It states that the most effective organizational design is contingent upon several factors. The right approach depends on the organization's size, its technology, its environment, and its strategic goals. A small, innovative software company in a fast-changing market will thrive with a flat, agile structure. A large, multinational bank operating in a highly regulated industry needs the stability and control of a more hierarchical structure to manage risk. The key takeaway is that structure must support strategy, not hinder it. As an organization grows or its environment changes, its structure must also be reevaluated and adapted to remain effective. What works for a 50-person company will likely break when it reaches 500 people. The challenge for leaders is to design a structure that provides enough clarity to be efficient, but enough flexibility to be adaptive. Now here's where organizational dynamics get tested the most. Change, mergers, restructures, new leadership, new technology. Every organization faces disruption eventually, and how people respond to that disruption often determines whether the change succeeds or fails. Kurt Lewin's classic change model breaks it into 3 stages. Unfreeze, helping people recognize the need for change, and loosening their grip on the way things have always been done. Change, the actual transition period, often messy and uncomfortable. Refreeze, stabilizing new behaviors and norms so the change actually sticks. Most change efforts fail not because the strategy was wrong, but because leaders skipped the human side. They announced the change without helping people emotionally process it. Resistance to change is rarely about the change itself. It's about fear of the unknown, loss of control, or lack of trust in leadership. If you're leading change right now, don't just communicate what is changing. Communicate why, and create space for people to express concerns before you expect them to comply. So how do you actually apply all of this? Here are 5 practical moves. Run regular culture and engagement check-ins. Don't wait for an exit interview to find out what people really think. Train managers in emotional intelligence. Technical skill gets people promoted. People skills determine whether they succeed as leaders. Build psychological safety. People need to feel safe speaking up before they'll ever tell you the truth. Align incentives with the behavior you actually want. You get what you reward, not what you say you value. Treat change as a human process, not just a project plan. Timelines matter. but so does how people feel along the way. At the end of the day, organizations aren't machines. They're communities of people navigating shared goals, competing interests, and constant change. The leaders and teams who understand that human layer, not just the strategy layer, are the ones who build organizations that actually last. If this helped you see your workplace a little differently, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what dynamics you're noticing in your own team. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe, because we're going deeper into leadership, culture, and workplace psychology in upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.